fuck. This is quite possibly the worst movie we've done on this Happy Madison summer event. I mean, this movie sucks. So to recap, we've had an incredibly forgettable, almost 2-hour unfunny rom-com with Just Go With It, and then we had a really forgettable family comedy with The Zookeeper, and now we have their attempt at doing an R-rated sex comedy with Bucky Larson, Born to Be a Star.
Bucky Larson, Born to Be a Star.
This movie was made to be a vehicle for Nick Swartzen, who I vaguely remember having a really big career on Comedy Central in the 2000s. I remember him being pretty funny with a stand-up, and he was really funny on Reno 911, but this movie, I don't know if it's just what happens when you sign up to be part of Happy Madison movies, or if it was the script, or if it was his performance, or what have you, but he was not funny in this movie, and really nobody seemed like they gave a shit while they were making this. The movie begins with Bucky Larson. He's this guy who was raised in this, little podunk town in the middle of the Midwest, and he gets fired from his grocery job for some reason because his boss beats the shit out of himself, says that Bucky did it, and then fires him, even though there was people seeing him do this to himself, so they could totally vouch for Bucky. That part was weird. Like, they might as well have just started the movie saying that Bucky didn't have a job. They didn't have to establish he got fired. One night, Bucky has a movie night with his friends who look like they're supposed to be, like, redneck stoners / nerds. Like, I don't even know, what they were supposed to be. And the movie they're going to be watching is a porno, and Bucky has not only never seen porn, he's never heard of it. And he's like a, I don't know, like, late 20s, early 30s looking guy, and it's, like, even if you're the most sheltered person in the world, there's no way in the realms of reality that's true. So his friends tell him about what pornography is. They watch the movie, which is this old 70s porno, and they find out that Bucky's parents are the stars of it. But Bucky's reaction is not to be grossed out, but instead to just go, oh, they were movie stars. And so he goes to them, they tell him all about the history with their films, and then Bucky decides, oh, that he's gonna go and become the world's next big porn star. He goes to LA, we get a token cameo from that guy that always shows up in these Happy Madison movies, but you don't know what the hell his name is. In a really bad looking wig, like this is an Uwe Boll movie all of a sudden. And Bucky goes to this diner where he meets up with the love interest for the movie, played by Christina Ricci. And I don't know what it is, but man, Christina Ricci, she seems like a really good actress. Like, I don't know, she has like that demeanor where she's just really nice and pleasant and adorable, and yet she always ends up in shit movies, and I'm tempted to say this is like the worst one she's ever been in. Her whole character arc, which is expanded on later, is that she wants to be a waitress of a fancy restaurant, but she had this incident where she spilled hot soup on a woman and it hospitalized her. After they do this whole training montage of her learning how to carry a tray, then there's a part where her and Bucky are going out to dinner, and there's this guy who's like a fan of Bucky's movies, and he says, hey, I would love to give you a job. Just the way it was handled was just so awkward, and it made me wonder, why was that subplot even in the movie? That's how everything in this movie operates. Everything just kind of operates on its own mode of, okay, well that happens, next thing. So Christina Ricci hooks up Bucky with a room by hooking him up with a guy that's in her apartment complex, played by the token cameo from Kevin Nealon. Next day, Bucky gets an audition for a mac and cheese commercial, but he starts jerking off in the audition and then he gets kicked out. The producer, who just happens to be an ex-porn producer who knew Bucky's parents, tells him that he knows some connections and he can hook him up with the next big thing in porn, which is a guy named Dick Shadows. And they set him up to be like the big rival for Bucky all throughout the movie. He shows up in like 2 or 3 scenes. I'm sorry, Steven Dorff. I also don't know why you were in this movie. After Dick Shadows embarrasses Bucky by revealing to the entire party that he has a micro dick, Bucky is about ready to just pack up and head home, but then he runs into a washed-up porn director played by Don Johnson. And honestly, Don Johnson was probably the most consistent character all throughout the movie. This is one of those things where if the movie was from the perspective of somebody else, like if this was like a Boogie Nights thing with like the porno industry, that kind of would have been interesting. Seeing like this washed up porn director who discovers this weird kid who becomes the next big thing in porn. That actually would have been kind of an interesting take on it, but no, it's a Happy Madison movie. They have to make the main character this bumbling man-child with a goofy look. Like, you know, Bucky has these obviously fake buck teeth, and he has like a coconut head wig, and he always wears like button-up shirts with like sweater vests. I said this with Zookeeper, but with Happy Madison movies, they usually try to have the main character not just look goofy, but have a goofy voice. I couldn't even tell what he was trying to do. Like, it sounds like he's trying to do kind of a lisp, but like I usually see Nick Swartzen do that with like a majority of the characters he plays. It's not like Adam Sandler, where Adam Sandler, you know, he usually does the thing where he talks out the side of his mouth, ha sha sha bushy boo. Nick Swartzen doesn't even like attempt that. To be fair, neither does Kevin James, but at least Paul Blart is funny in an ironic meme sense. This movie is just kind of sad. So anyway, ex-porn director Don Johnson says, hey, Bucky, you know, we're gonna film a porno tonight. Let's give this a shot, see where things go. And they discover the new big thing in porn because as soon as the girl takes her clothes off, Bucky just instantly nuts right then and there, twice. It's kind of like that thing in American Pie, except that was a good movie.
Not again, man.
Is that possible?
And it becomes a viral video sensation on youpube.net. Right. And so, yeah, Bucky becomes the next big thing in porn because the girls feel less threatened and the guys feel more emasculated knowing that they're not Bucky.
Guys aren't threatened, and the girls think they've got a prize.
Compared to you, he's gigantic. You make me look like I've got a big...
Changing lives.
Bucky becomes this, like, accidental overnight sensation. There's a bit where they go on, I forget if it was Jimmy Kimmel or Jimmy Fallon, but it's one of them. Bucky wins an Adult Film Award, which has a cameo from Pauly Shore. And how sad is it that the guy from Biodome has more dignity than being in Bucky Larson? Like I said earlier with the whole subplot with Christina Ricci, there is a subplot that is dropped as soon as it's mentioned, where, and they do this twice. They bring it up twice in two different scenes, and it feels like the movie repeated itself, where they set up this whole thing where even though Bucky's career is going places, funding is strict because Don Johnson is working with the Vietnamese mafia who want to pull out funding, and like they bring that up twice in two separate occasions, and then it just goes nowhere. Like, that was just weird. It's like, it wasn't a funny joke. Oh, Vietnamese mafia. That wasn't even funny. It was just like, okay, is this going anywhere? And then it's never brought up again. You're like, the fuck? So the last like 15, 20 minutes of the movie, we then have to have something happen in this film that has subplots that go nowhere, jokes that aren't funny, and a main plot that is barely even strung along. So what's the conflict? Well, Bucky and Christina Ricci have sex for the first time. Christina Ricci's character leaves Bucky the next day and says, you know, I can't just be restricted to one person, especially someone who's in the porn industry. And Bucky feels like he can no longer do movies, and then Don Johnson reveals, oh, well, I told her to, you know, probably pull back because I didn't want her getting in the way of your career, but I realized that was the wrong thing to do. So now go and get the girl. Hurry, boy, she's waiting there for you. And then Bucky rides off on horseback because they were filming like a Western porno or something. And he gets the girl, and then they both ride off into Sunset Boulevard. Now, without seeing Jack and Jill, because I didn't review that, that was Media Wiz and Nostalgia Kid, but after seeing the 3 movies that we've done for this whole Summer of Happy Madison, this is probably the worst one. This movie, it's just dumb. Like, that's the best way of describing it. It's that it's dumb, it's not funny, things just kind of happen for the sake of happening, storylines get dropped a lot in this film, and it makes you wonder why they even brought it up in the first place if it wasn't going to go anywhere. This right here is supposed to be one of those wacky characters. Bucky Larson, look, he's got a funny haircut, and he has big buck teeth, and, you know, that kind of thing. But even then, Nick Swartzen in the role, it's not as annoying as Happy Madison characters go. It's way less annoying than like Rob Schneider, for example, but it's just kind of like, okay, well, the joke is that he's an idiot and he looks funny, and the joke is that this guy wants to be in porno. That's the whole joke of the movie. Another thing about this movie is that it reminded me a lot of other R-rated raunchy sex comedies that were way better than this. Like I said American Pie earlier, and the first American Pie is like a classic comedy, but Something About Mary is way better than this. The movie it reminded me of the most was that Trey Parker, Matt Stone movie, Orgazmo, about the Mormon guy that wanted to become a porn star to get money, and he becomes like this porn superhero. That is better than this. So yeah, I was expecting to be angry by the end of this review, and I'm not. I'm just more disappointed, because I knew this movie was gonna suck, but at the same time, I wasn't angry. Like, there's certain bad movies that we sat through for Blockbusters show where I was just pissed watching them. If I had to rank these movies, I would definitely put Bucky Larson at the bottom, but compared to the other two, it's kind of hard to see which one was better because they were both equally just bland and unfunny. Like, Just Go With It is a 2-hour comedy that's not funny, that feels like it only exists to be an excuse for Adam Sandler and friends to go to Hawaii. And Zookeeper is just a Kevin James vehicle that's just this, it's a lot like Marmaduke, where it's just this bland, unfunny, family-friendly, safe, generic film. But Bucky Larson is unfunny in like the most agonizing way out of all three of them, because they have gags that go on way too long, and it makes you wonder why the fuck they're lingering on it.
You're destined for greatness.
Even the most unfunny jokes you see on like Adult Swim programs that you probably hate, those are funnier than this. Anyway, that's the end of Summer of Happy Madison. Yeah, Bucky Larson's the worst, and it's honestly hard to rank the other two because they're both equally bad. So tune in next time for the Blockbuster show. We have at least 3 videos coming up in September. One is going to be a sketch, and the other 2 are going to be regular vlog-style reviews like this. So look forward to some of those. Until then, I'm Adam Sykes of the Blockbuster show, and we will see you guys in the next video.
You don't look like the average porn star.
Oh yeah, because I'm wearing a sweater.